everybody, to another edition of Open Season. I'm your host, Billy Allen. You know the drill. We come to you from Down the Road Brewery every Tuesday. We take all your calls live from 9 to 10, 502-501-3477. Used to mess that one up a little bit, but we're trying to knock some of the rust off. I've got Brian Murphy to my left.
What up?
Bruins expert, producer, you name it, he'll do it. As we recap everything behind a crazy week in sports.
Crazy week.
Everybody in the NBA, well, at least everybody on Golden State's hurt. Kevin Durant, we saw that last week. Now Klay Thompson, shaking up huge things for max contracts in the NBA. Sure, we all know, everybody that wanted me to talk Bruins, not a good night to talk Bruins as they get within one game of a Stanley Cup win for Tuukka Rask and for some of these other veterans like Chara, Bergeron, and some of the young stars came really close and ultimately weren't able to pull it out. What do they have to do? From the aftermath of this team that's pretty good, but it's pretty tough to make a cup. They've had a really competitive team over the past few years, all the way back to 2011. They've made it there, but they haven't been able to quite pull it out. So what do you think the Bruins have to do to clean things up? We'll ask you. We'll ask Brian. We're going to be talking about the health of David Ortiz as we broke that news a little bit last week and talked about the gallbladder, the flight. Seems like additional details are coming out. Seems like they've actually arrested 10 so far for David Ortiz. So we're up to double digits now if you're counting. And it seems like they actually got the person who orchestrated the hit or hired the hitman. So probably not going to be the best day for him. And things continue to come out about that. We'll talk about that as well. It seems like some of the things we had mentioned last week may actually indeed be true about David Ortiz. So we'll get into that as AD goes to the Lakers. Finally, that deal felt like it was 2 to 3 years in the making. Thought the Celtics were going to get him. What do the Celtics do now in the aftermath? Looks like not only do they lose Kyrie, but looks like Al Horford's out the door as well. I can remember when he signed this deal, I think I was petrified that he was going to take his option, and I am shocked that he's not going to because I would say he is no longer in negotiations with the Celtics and apparently is looking to sign a 4-year deal somewhere else. So we'll see where that shakes out for the ultimate pro, Al Horford, guy that a lot of people liked around here, but maybe people didn't quite like the contract. So what are your thoughts? And, the Red Sox are actually pretty hot right now. Winners of 6 straight going against the Twins. We've got them right here in front of us on the IMAX size screen that we've got here from Down the Road Brewery. And we're in it was 0-0. Looks like Boston just put one across the plate. He's continuing to add to that. One of the most consistent guys, especially for everyone here. Just the Bruins and where they go from here. The Stanley Cup Finals loss. It seems like when that final started, it seemed like a lot of people thought that the Bruins had the more talented team. You ask a lot of hockey fans, a lot of ESPN commentators, fans of the sport. A lot of people think that the Bruins were the more talented team, and I definitely agree with that. And, it seems like the Blues kind of pulled out some old school hockey where it was, beat you down, play things a little bit slower. And, ultimately, we've seen the Bruins get to a few cups here, but I think I actually saw a stat where basically they've gone to pretty much a Game 7 in every single Stanley Cup Finals appearance except for one, I believe, or something along those lines since 1971. So it seems to be something where the Bruins, they get to the cup better than some of these other teams, but what do the Bruins actually have to do to put one of these away? You got great play out of Tuukka Rask. The first line, obviously, some issues there, but is it as simple as returning this team back? What type of improvements do they have to make? And I guess I'll go to you, Brian. What do you think that the Bruins, what do you think they have to kind of address now is, game away from things. They've got a lot of guys that are getting a year older, but going to return a lot of guys back to this team. What type of moves do you think they have to make to ultimately get there and win the cup?
Yeah, well, so they made two very key moves at the trade deadline this last season, acquiring Charlie Coyle from the Minnesota Wild and Marcus Johansson from the New Jersey Devils. I think both proved to be a great fit. Both at times were your best player in the playoffs, and certainly in that Stanley Cup series. And as we were saying going into the season, you're looking for the younger players to really step up and make that next step to being dependable. For the defensemen being dependable, your Brandon Carlos, your Matt Grzelcyk. On the forward side, you were looking for some scoring. I think they have some question marks on the wing on their second and third line. Jake DeBrusk, you can put him in there with Krejci. That was a combination that worked well. But I think you found something with Johansson there. But you still are carrying that Backes contract, which is just
that's like $6.5 million or so,
weight
right?
Around their necks. Because no other team is going to pick him up or pick up that contract. You're not going to get anybody for him.
How many years are left on that?
I think this is the last year.
Honestly, it's amazing that they even sat him kind of given the number that's pay. I mean, we talked about Bruce Cassidy changing things up. So he's got one more year on top of this that they're basically.
Well, he'll be going into, I believe, his final year of the contract, and he's a solid guy, a good locker room guy, but he cannot play in the modern NHL anymore. It's the game just goes too fast for him. He's not really. I mean, he's tough in that he'll take punishment, but I don't know that he really dishes it out. So I think they need to. Really, I think it's the same issue that they had going into the season. Where are you going to find your secondary scoring? DeBrusk got 27 goals in the regular season. I think you can count on him giving you some level of the same production. Danton Heinen took a step back, so I think he's at the right price, so he'll be back, and you're going to kind of hope for more from him. But, I never would have thought I would say this, about a Bruins team, but given what the Blues were able to do, they need that heavier game, a little bit more physicality, a little bit more of that heavier game.
Now they got to bring back a little bit more of the Claude style,
right.
Integrate a little bit, but play young players.
Trade for Adam McQuaid, trade for.
So they got to get some clunkers in there basically, and try to balance out a little bit of their skill with a little bit more of the heaviness. It seemed like that's
just
pretty much
by going off what the Blues were able to do to them.
Right.
I mean, I
think
think in the regular season
teams were kind of up on the rise, and
absolutely.
It's almost like the Blues kind of pulled back. It's almost if you kind of look at it, it looks similar to kind of what the Pats were able to do, right? Like kind of go against the trend of what everything.
Go to the power running game.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it seems like, and now, I think teams are definitely going to look for that a little bit, and yeah, for sure. So it seems like the Bruins, it's a far cry from some of the teams we looked at a few years ago on those first runs where things were too slow and too heavy and too many guys like Sean Thornton and.
Well, hey, those were the guys that brought you the cup in 2011.
Sure. But I guess just going forward, they kind of need to mix in what's been successful, this more skillful style, but they need to probably bring in somebody back that's going to put a little bit more fear into people. Maybe somebody to take over kind of for Chara as he gets a little bit older.
Yep. Yep.
Obviously, he's going to be 43 when he returns on the ice next year, and
that's a big question mark for sure. What are you going to be able to expect from Chara? Is he? I mean, he's got the reach, he's got the size, but is that going to be enough? And if you're looking at him as your top pairing defenseman, one of your top pairing defensemen, I just don't see that being a long-term path to success. I think so much of what was interesting for lack of a better word, what the Bruins experienced, I think more than any other sport, in the NHL, the playoffs become a different game from the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
If the refs put the whistles away, physicality really comes to the forefront without being reckless, and the Bruins just couldn't quite adapt their game to what the Blues were throwing at them.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it. So, we'll see what the Bruins do to improve as, we head into an offseason where they get all the way there pretty much, but not able to close on the final game. So, a tough one there for all the hockey fans to swallow. But I think really, some of the big things that we need to talk about this week are obviously the free agent landscape and the hot stove activity for the NBA. It's really just kind of going off. We talked about it last week where Kyrie Irving has signed with Rockefeller and all other kinds of arrows, basically pointing to the fact that he's going to go to New Jersey tonight, or actually, kind of as we develop tonight here, the story actually came out that Al Horford's no longer actually in the talks with the Celtics. When he originally opted out of his deal, people are thinking, maybe is he opting out to sign a more team-friendly deal? No, apparently Al Horford is no longer in talks with the Celtics to extend his stay, and he's actually looking for a 4-year deal somewhere else. So the Celtics, where do we go from here, right? It's crazy because you had to overpay Al Horford years ago to start the foundation of being able to get guys like Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward here. And obviously you can't fault the GM for an injury like Gordon Hayward had. I would have signed Gordon Hayward for the max, 100 out of 100. For the skill set we were trying to develop, for the way that the Celtics play, he was a guy that was really getting a lot of assists. If you actually go back and think about the Celtics offense before Kyrie was in it, Al Horford was a guy that was leading this team in assists. And back when Hayward was actually healthy, they ran a lot of this offense, that preseason. They ran a lot of it through Hayward getting a touch every time. So, what I'm saying here is the Celtics in a bit of a pickle where it looks like the two best guys to attract free agents are kind of headed out the door. And what do the Celtics do here to kind of try to scramble and pick up the pieces and try to put together something that could be attractive because we all know in this NBA, nobody goes it alone. It's the buddy system, right? I mean, nobody goes to these markets by themselves. It's all hand in hand with another free agent or understanding that another free agent's going to end up there. So if you're looking at the Celtics right now as a free agent, you're dealing with kind of a bunch of kids and the skilled top-level guys heading out of town. Terry Rozier, a guy that was trying to badmouth his way out of town, hating everything the Celtics were doing a few weeks ago as he made his media tours. He's definitely changed his tune as, with Kyrie out the door, the best contingency plan here for a point guard may potentially be to sign Terry Rozier to a long-term deal. And does that deal ultimately end up costing you more than it did to lock down a guy like Marcus Smart? So are you looking at forward? Obviously, they have a few picks, but we all know picks in the NBA outside the top 10 really aren't worth a whole lot. Sometimes you'll potentially be made available. We all kind of laughed a few weeks ago when the Rockets were a fire sale and had to compete. It seems like everything they're doing from a team standpoint is to keep this young core, so to speak, the Tatum Brown kind of combo, and build around it. But I'm just wondering if you could even draw a guy like Kemba Walker. I mean, Kemba Walker's not even necessarily a guy that I want to give a max contract to, but again, you got to kind of get back into that point where we may have to overpay for certain guys. And, you see what a team like the Lakers were doing and how desperate they were to get a guy like Anthony Davis. And it's because everybody kind of knows you need 3 stars to win these championships. And you put 2 stars together, that gets somebody else thinking about these destinations. And if you look at the Celtics right now, I'd say that they don't have any stars. They have a budding star in Jason Tatum, and what we all think is a prospective star. I definitely think he's going to be a star. He's going to score 22 points in this league a game, no problem, potentially even next year, especially with all the shots that he's going to add to his game, because without Kyrie and without Horford, 2 of the top scorers for this team, he's definitely going to get his shots up. So what do the Celtics do here as AD to the Lakers. The Lakers, they go from a team that was pretty much everybody was looking at them as a laughingstock, a mess. Granted, everything upstairs is still a mess, but the Lakers, I think, 13 days ago, I think they were in like the 25th position or so to finish for this year in the NBA, and now they're your favorite for the finals. So with the way things shake up, obviously the injuries to KD and Clay, but it's been quite a turnaround for the Lakers, and I mean, we don't know what that'll even shake out into. They could end up being terrible, right? But you look at, everybody kind of looks at that AD and LeBron, and just you put those together, that gets everybody thinking kind of championship mind. I think one guy definitely in particular that kind of puts together a lot of the thoughts for people this week is Scottie Pippen. We've got a little bit of audio from him on his thoughts of AD to the Lakers and what that tandem could potentially mean for the
Eddie,
NBA.
Let's start in LA. What are your expectations for the new LeBron-Anthony Davis partnership?
Well, Rachel, I still think that they need some outside shooting, but anytime you put 2 of the best players on one team, instantly they're going to cause problems. And I think this is going to be a problem throughout the league. They have a great opportunity to win a title this year with the problems going on in Houston, who I thought would really step up and have this opportunity, but they've decided to dismantle that team to some degree, but maybe they're going to plug it back together after seeing what happened to Golden State. But I think this is a great opportunity for the Lakers. We've seen in years past that, the Lakers don't stay down long. They're going to always go out and try to get the best talent in the game, and I think they brought it home with AD.
And we don't stop Scottie Pippen for many reasons, but we got somebody ringing through. Hi, you are live on Open Season. Who do we have?
Hey, Billy Allen. This is Glue from Southie.
Glue, what's going on tonight? What's on your mind?
How are you, brother?
Hey, not too bad, man. I can't get enough of this NBA hot stove.
Oh man, yeah. I hope you guys already haven't talked about it, but the whole James Harden and CP3 issue that's going on. You guys talked about that?
We honestly were just kind of talking about, we were just playing a clip from Scottie Pippen actually, kind of talking about how AD to the Lakers is going to cause some problems, and he was just kind of talking about how Houston's starting to dismantle. But yeah, why don't you fill us in a little bit? Pretty crazy.
So I think most of us have seen the video of sort of CP3 and Harden when Harden's sitting on the bench, and I think they're hashing something out. And CP3 puts a pound out there, and Harden whacks his hand away, right?
Yep.
Everyone thinks, oh, there's issues in Houston, the thing's going to ship, but they turned out to have a good season. So, things progress into right now, and now the whole thing comes out on Bleacher Report today saying that, one of them has to go, and that Harden went to or I think it was Harden, or it could have been CP3, but one of them went to the front office.
I think it was actually CP3.
All right, so CP3 said, one of us has to go, and if it's not him, it's me. And then I actually saw CP3 comment on that Bleacher Report thing on IG, and he said, That's news to me. So what's your take on that? Do you think that's kind of, do you think he's kind of lying right there? Is he sort of just putting that off? Or do you think that he really started, the fire there in Houston?
You know what, Glue? I honestly think Chris Paul, I think he completely started it. I think he is this guy that, I don't know, man. I loved him in college, but, my friends started getting at me when he started giving guys nut shots, and, you start looking at it just kind of the whole way that he's kind of gone. It's like everyone with two All-Stars can't win over there, goes to Houston and can't make it work over there. It's like obviously he's at a point where he's got to acquiesce his game a little bit. It's funny because like we think of Chris Paul, you look at any stat, and he is by far like a Hall of Fame point guard, one of the best. But I honestly can't think of ever watching him and being like, wow, this guy's absolutely dominating the game. I don't know about you, but it just feels like he's a guy that, I think here's what I'll say as far as him going to the front office. I think, he probably looks at it like, I had to sign this deal to come here. You guys wanted me. I signed the max. I come over there. I do you a favor. And then I'm hearing trade rumors, right? I'm Chris Paul.
Right.
I can't be getting batted around like a baseball for the rest of my career. Like I got to have some, he doesn't want to be a Dwight Howard and fizzle out everywhere. So it's almost like he's kind of in a position where Melo was, where it's like he wants a little bit like Chris Paul hasn't earned the right to say pick me or Harden. I mean, how long is that going to take Daryl Morey to decide? I mean, is he even going to have to use brain capacity to decide which one he'd want over them?
Yeah. It's just all these point guards, drama queens, right? You got Kyrie, you got him. But, I don't know. I still think he had his best run in Houston, I'd probably say, because, in L.A., he had Doc Rivers, he had Blake Griffin. They had a solid team there. They had a solid core, and he still had to leave, and just leads me to believe I think he's a problem in the locker room. And you're right. I think even though he had a great season this year, it seems it's a trend for Chris Paul. So
yeah,
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens or where he ends up.
It's tough, too, because it's two guys that have to dominate the ball to be effective, right? And it's like we're way more effective when Harden has the ball. So I don't know. It's probably got to be tough for Chris Paul. I mean, he's never been I bet when he came there, he probably thought he'd be much more of the point guard or probably have a lot more usage than he ultimately has, too. So I don't know, but it just seems like an absolute fire sale down there. I'm hoping the Celtics could capitalize on it. I'll tell you two guys I wouldn't mind taking from Houston would be Eric Gordon and Clint Capella. I guess, as you look around, what the hell do the Celtics do? We thought we were getting married to Kyrie. Now we're getting divorced from Horford. What do you think? What do you think the Celtics' best plan is? Kind of in free agency to put together a competitive product, Lou.
Well, you got to commend Ainge, right? You got to commend Ainge. He made a push going to get Kyrie. He had the older guys there in Horford, to kind of lead everybody, but Kyrie just didn't really work. He's going to leave, right? I think he's pretty much a shoo-in for the Nets. I think it is. He's pretty much going to go there, from what I understand. I don't know if you've heard any different.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I understand, too.
I think with a team loaded with wings, man, they got to go after a big. They got to get a big. I've always said that's been the story. I don't think Baines, Tice, and, a three-point shooting Horford is going to get it done. We need a strong, solid center. Baines is great for the bruiser role, but we need somebody else. Tice doesn't really fit that mold. And we have plenty of dangerous pieces to put around a big man, and we might just be, a one away. So I don't know. I think we should go out and get a big. I think that's the move. I don't know. Tell me if you think otherwise, but that's what I've been saying pretty much this entire year.
I know you always got your ear to the grindstone. Who is that big, in your mind, I guess? Who would you like them to target, or who do you think's a realistic target? I mean, I see Clint Capella as a realistic target, but I don't know if that's the best fit with the Celtics.
I love him. He might be a little too thin for him, but I do love Clint Capella. I love his game. I was thinking, maybe somebody like a Karl Anthony Towns. Minnesota's kind of dismantling, getting rid of Butler originally. Wiggins might not be that awesome third guy they were really looking for. And I think Towns might want to get out of there. And with that young core, him being, I think, 26, he might gel. He might gel well with all these young guys, your Smarts, your Browns and Tatums. So I would keep an eye on that.
Yeah, from a size perspective, I mean, that guy can do it all. He's got the true size. I mean, I can't understand why Minnesota doesn't prioritize him more. I guess Glue, I guess to hit on that a little bit more, I had heard that they're kind of debating between giving a max to Wiggins or to Karl Anthony Towns. Apparently, the signs, too, are going to Wiggins being easier to sign, basically. So maybe they do sign Wiggins. Maybe Karl Anthony Towns comes free. What kind of package do you think what kind of package do you think the Celtics would have to put together for somebody like Karl Anthony Towns?
I mean, I would think that
would you give away Tatum?
Involved in that deal.
That's what we got to start out with that. You give away Tatum? Apparently they wouldn't put Tatum in the deal for Anthony Davis.
No, you don't get rid of Tatum. I think, you potentially could package up Rozier in there to really make it appealing. You could put a Hayward in there or a Brown, maybe a pick, but you got to keep Tatum. I don't think you get rid of Tatum. And I just think that Hayward, although he was an all-star, and he was a West all-star at that, I just think he's a little timid on the ankle. Maybe he needs another year, but I just hope he wasn't a bust for us. It's bad luck, but if that's the case, maybe he's damaged collateral, and maybe you get Karl Anthony Towns, in return for him, and you throw Rozier in there and really make it appealing. I don't know.
Hey, well,
then we're kind of left at a gap.
Hey, well, that sounds good to me, Glue. If we could salvage this with Karl Anthony Towns, I think that would put everybody in a bit of a sweeter mood. We appreciate you checking in with us from Southie. Good stuff. Glue sits there courtside, so he knows exactly what's going on. And always take a call from you guys. So appreciate you calling in. And Celtics
anytime.
Here, we got a lot to think about and unpack with them here, Brian. I mean, a lot to go on here. And like I said,
wow, right? I mean,
it's just. Everything that they kind of worked for, this team was going to be good for a year or two. Everybody talked about the Celtics being the top team for the next 7 years. It was interviews with Jaylen Brown. We're going to win the next 7 titles, and this team's going to take over and really kind of push the pedal down on the East without LeBron. Sans LeBron, the Celtics are going to go all the way, and now you're looking at a team that's probably going to be one of the younger teams in the league. As Glue mentioned, without Horford, they're definitely going to be short a big. Some of the guys he's talking about, Baines and Tice, those are bench guys, and you take what you can get, but you can't run those two over the course. Those are obviously guys to fit in with another starting center. Baines, maybe in some cases you could start him to give you that first 5 minutes or so of. Almost like that Andrew Bogut type, back when Andrew Bogut was more effective on the Warriors, what he would do, just a way to make sure that guys can't just run to the rack. But you can't live off starting, Aaron Baines is a 20-minute-a-night guy, 15 to 20-minute a night, and closer to the 15-minute range. So that's definitely something that they'll have to look at. And with 2 of these stars headed out of town, like I said, you look at this team, and am I going to be in the same position as Kyrie was? A bunch of, I'm with a bunch of young kids complaining about that, and it's all just this NBA where it's the Me Too and it's just I've got to come with.
And to that point, Billy, I got to say, I hear you talking up Jason Tatum and being at 22 points per night, and he might get there, but I don't think he's he could be one of your 3. I don't think he's the number 1. You know what I mean?
I'll definitely agree. I don't think you can say
he's got a pretty high ceiling, but he regressed this season, and sure, probably a lot had to do with Kyrie being back in a full-time role and all of the toxicity that he brought. But even, if you hand the keys to Jason Tatum, I'm not so sure he's going to drive the car to where you want it to go.
Well, I would definitely agree with you. I don't think you're going to hand the keys to a guy. Well, I wouldn't want to hand the keys to a guy this young.
But who
I
el-
mean,
but
even the
who-
Lakers wouldn't do it when they had a guy like Kobe Bryant who was spelled out. This guy's you know what I mean? So
But who
to
el-
give it,
But if Kyrie's gone, is Gordon?
That's
Do you
what
hand
I'm
the keys
saying.
to Gordon Hayward? Do you, I mean, and
I think-
Horford. You were never. Horford was always going to be your designated driver.
I think with the way this team's situated, Tatum's probably going to become a leader just to some degree because of his performance. You know, at some point when you're performing so well, and like I said, nothing is a guarantee here. I would have thrown. I like to gamble. You know, I see that windows are a lot shorter, and this is kind of the point. You know, the whole Celtics are good for the next 7 years. They get through a season, and oh my God, we might not make the playoffs for 7 years.
yeah.
We may not attract a star outside of one that we draft for the next 7 years.
Yep.
So, you know, you got to give it up to the Lakers. Yes and no, right? Did they give up a big haul? Sure, but that's what it costs, and they're confident enough that what they put out there. You know, you got to give the
didn't-
Lakers
they
credit
didn't
on
have
this
to-
too.
they didn't give up
They
LeBron,
walked away with
so-
Kyle Kuzma as well.
Yeah.
Nobody thought that Kyle Kuzma was going to be standing on the Lakers with Anthony Davis, right? So Kyle Kuzma, he may not be the 3. He may be the 4 if they bring in a guy like Kemba Walker. And sure, you're looking at a very short bench, but this is really the way the teams are assembled. We talked about the Clippers, how it kind of came from their 3 stars. And when we talk about Houston, and it came with their 2 stars. And they've been able to add a lot of really good pieces around them. Clint Capella, not an all-star, but close. And Eric Gordon, for my money, one of the best scorers off the bench in this. Like I said, a guy that I would happily take from there just because guy can make threes with the best of them, comes off the bench and will give you 16, 17 a night. I think that's definitely something the Celtics could use. But again, that's on a long, long grocery list at this point that we didn't really see opening up.
Yeah, and you know, and the caller also mentioned something that I'm not completely sold on either. That they're really that strong and deep on the wing.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
I guess- I mean-
are you is Hayward a dominant wing player?
I would say
That's kind of a huge question.
I guess what I'm thinking out of Hayward this year, what I'm hoping for is something like 15, 5, and 5. If he can get back to that level, but the Hayward we saw at the end of last year was shades away from that and not able to give you anything like that on a consistent basis. As we've got another one ringing up here. Hi, you're live with Open Season. Who do we have?
Billy Allen.
Yes, sir. Who do we got?
Nanners.
Nanners. What are you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Oh man.
I'm just down in Austin, getting ready for a big day at work tomorrow. I saw you guys were live. Figured I'd call in.
Absolutely. Well, what's the sports talk in Austin? What are we missing out on?
There's no sports in Austin.
Well,
if it's not UT season, there's no season.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep. Is Coach Mack still coaching that team there? Or
Mac's around. I'm actually walking downtown Austin trying to find Mac right now.
Nice.
So what do you
He's
got
nowhere to be
for
found.
what do you got for us tonight, Nanoff? I know you can't want
What
to
do I
talk
got for
about
you?
you don't want to talk about the NBA.
I don't want to talk about the NBA. I want to talk about how tough Zdeno Chara is and how much he means to the Boston Bruins.
All right.
Go for it.
I mean, have you ever seen someone play through that before?
No, I have
He
not.
broke his jaw. He had metal in his face, and he still played games in the Stanley Cup Finals. Arguably one of the toughest championships to play in. True or false?
No, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that the Stanley Cup Finals is probably actually the toughest finals to play in. So I totally agree with you on this one, Nanoff. I mean, Guy's an absolute warrior. I thought it was incredible that he could even talk after that Game 7 loss. I mean, that was pretty shocking that he could even talk to the fact that he had all the plates in his mouth. So apparently he had multiple fractures too, which is also surprising because you see these other guys with not to say that only one break or something isn't it, but these guys who can't even eat or do anything, have any type of energy, and there you have Zdeno Chara, 42 years old. Sure, the Game 5 was a little tough for him, but Game 6, was very effective, and he's certainly going to go down as one of the big warriors for this city, and I think
it's just an impressive performance to me.
Totally, and you don't really see it happen a lot. We see guys like to transition to a sport that you hate. The guy who just won the title up in Toronto took 22 games off this year for load management. You think Zdeno Chara has those words in his vocabulary? Probably.
No.
Probably not.
No, Zdeno Chara's load management. I won't say it on air, but it's definitely different.
He does that in the bathroom. You're saying maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah. So totally couldn't agree with you more. Guy's an absolute warrior, and it's too bad that they couldn't put one more away for him because absolutely a Hall of Famer and a legend here.
He earned it.
I mean, yeah, we really don't see that in sports too much these days, huh? It's when you're hurt. I mean, we saw Zion Williamson, probably as able-bodied as anybody, right? Missed 7 games for falling out of a shoe. So I hit on it sometimes on the show here that I love the days when guys used to take 82 games in the NBA as like a badge of pride. Jordan used to try to hit 82 all the time. Gary Payton, Karl Malone,
Bird,
Drexler.
When's the last time LeBron's played 82?
He actually, you don't want to do that too bad because he actually did play 82 last year.
LeBron's old school like that. I will give him that credit for sure.
LeBron will take off like 5 a year. I will admit that, but I mean, compared to the other stars, it's you used to look at guys, Nanoff, like Allen Iverson, and be like, this guy's hurt, and he'd play like 65 games. Now it's like Kawhi Leonard. That seems like it's going to be, that's going to be the over mark for him. So, yeah, I think it only helps highlight absolutely what a warrior these guys are, especially in a sport where I feel like not as much is guaranteed. You don't get quite as paid as much.
Right.
So I think it is really refreshing to see, and it's really something you're not seeing in sports today where somebody gets hurt and you've got every talk show talking about how to manage this guy's injury rather than just what Zdeno Chara does or what the old school guys do is
play, win the game.
Suck it up and play. So
Yep.
Totally hear you on that, Nanoff. You got anything else for us tonight?
So the last debate that I wanted to leave you guys with is, this is the debate my friends and I were having. What do you feel is the most prestigious award the most prestigious championship trophy is? I had a bunch of hockey guys arguing it's the Stanley Cup, the only trophy, right? But is it the Lombardi Trophy? Is it the World Series trophy? Is it the Green Jacket? What do you feel is the most prestigious championship award?
So I like you leaving us off on that.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
It's a great question, right? Like I had a bunch of hockey guys telling me it's the cup, it's the cup, it's the only trophy, it's the only one, it's the only one that exists.
For team sports, I agree 100%.
I would actually, and I'm not a big hockey guy, but I would agree as well. Where I do think it is the toughest, especially with the fact that they reseed each round. I don't think there's any other what is it in hockey where you always are playing basically what is it that they do between each round?
It's worst versus best every round.
Isn't it basically like you're always playing the toughest kind of?
Yeah.
Well, right, because you got to get through your division first, and then you're playing the top.
I feel like in the NFL you can. So I feel like in the MLB you can get hot at the right time, right?
Yep.
We've seen it like I'll always remember that St. Louis Cardinals team. I think they won 82 games in the regular season.
The 2011 version.
And won a championship. I think it's all about playing baseball at the right time.
Yep.
Like, we've seen that happen so many times.
And we've seen
the 2013
it
Red Sox, everybody thought that team was a fluke. until
But
until
you
the
don't
trophy.
you don't think Bennington was the hottest goalie in the NHL?
I do think he was probably the hottest goalie in those last 3 games or so that they
And-
needed
The
to.
last 6 weeks.
I disagree with that. I think
say that
Tuukka Rask
Rask-
was the hottest goalie up until Game 7, and Binnington outplayed him in Game 7. But Rask, on the balance, I think was the better
But-
goaltender in
But
the.
my point is that St. Louis rode Bennington to the Stanley Cup.
I'll agree with that. I will agree with that.
So I guess that could happen. So I guess
every team needs an O'Reilly.
that would be a point against hockey. So here's what I was going to say. Baseball, you get hot the right time. Football feels like you can get that number 1 seed, that number 2 seed, potentially play a couple tomato cans. How many times have we seen that happen?
Well,
Seems
Right.
like the NHL is always something where it's just an absolute grind. It's tough to get there, and then it's the whole fact that you're playing against the toughest competitors. You're not really playing through that many tomato cans, especially with the wear and tear too that's on you at that point. Like, how many guys came off the ice and we said that this guy's got X injury, Y injury, so. It's
Acciari
something
had a
where not
broken
only do you have
sternum.
to be good, but you also have to get all the way there, manage your guys through the injuries, play through, whether you could be an 8 seed some year, a number 1 seed the next year, but you're always kind of getting reseeded against the top competition. It does seem like something. And then I watch a team like the Bruins who has made a couple great runs, and still they've gotten to the finals, and still how hard it is to actually
Yep.
to go ahead and win it. So
Acciari had a broken sternum and led the Bruins in hits.
yeah, that was pretty crazy too that they didn't call that trip. That was pretty rough.
I mean, the trip, like, regardless of the trip, like the fact that he had a broken sternum, like that hurts
Oh, yeah.
to cough.
I know, like
Hurts
I
to-
couldn't,
hurts
I
And he
couldn't
led-
get
and
in my
he led
car
that
and
team
drive
in
to
hits.
work if I had that, and this guy's out
I
there.
sit at a desk
sma-
all day, and I'd cringe doing that with a broken finger. Never
I'm,
mind.
I'm afraid to breathe heavy with that. Yeah.
So,
Right? Like I take the elevator, so I don't have to breathe heavy.
Exactly. To the second floor.
so
I mean, yeah. Why would I do that?
and just like, because I think it's a really great question, but just to kind of bring in some other sports, what do we think of something like the Boston Marathon? Certainly, yeah, sure, it's 1 day, but
Dude, but how many people
Well,
do you know
Here's what else.
that have ran the Boston Marathon?
I know a few.
I'll
And
tell
they
you the
were-
ones
they were
I know,
never
Nana.
gonna-
I'll
they
tell
were
you the
never
ones
gonna-
I know, Nanoff. Everyone that's done it for charity because they blast it in your face until it's over with, right?
Right, because all they're asking for is $5.
Because they weren't able to run it fast
Well,
enough. to
hold,
qualify.
no, but we're talking about the elite runners, and there have been some runners who have dominated for stretches of time and won 2, 3, 4 in a row.
Sure.
And much more, I think, in
So-
the modern running of it, you see a lot of different winners each year. So now, because it's gotten a lot
You
more.
can't
so
tell me you're going to compare the winning of the Boston Marathon to winning of the Masters.
All right,
If
hold
we're
on,
talking
hold
about
on.
individuals,
That would
let
be
me
exactly
say
what I would
something.
compare
Let me
it to.
let
That
me
would
say
be
something
exactly
here.
what I would compare it to, because it's.
Let me
over-
tell you something that I think is impressive. All right, let's think about this, like Olympic dominance, right? Like just for a second. We'll
Okay,
get
yeah,
back to
yeah.
that. But think of a guy like Usain Bolt. He won all 3 events that he ran
I like
in
it. Yep.
3 consecutive Olympics. So you're saying you're the fastest guy on the planet and have trained for that for 12 years, basically,
Michael
to
Phelps.
be able to perform for. And a guy like Michael Phelps.
Yep.
You look at, not only was he the best guy on the planet for 4 years, he trained to be the best for 12 and did it in it like that.
That's
Is it some of those things? The fact that Usain Bolt was the fastest guy in every event in each year for the, I mean, that
very impressive.
that's some long-standing dominance. So I think there's a lot of ways we can quantify it, and I think team sports and individual sports, like that
That's
definitely
where-
draws a line. Like I feel
Right,
like we
right.
have to almost draw a line between team sports
I
and
agree,
individual
yep.
sports. Seems like there is a consensus that team sports, I think we can all kind of agree that it seems like hockey is the toughest. Every sport's going to say that.
Yeah.
their championship is the toughest. But in all reality, if you were any athlete and to go play in a playoff, you would not want to go through the NHL's format, basically. So
I couldn't agree with that more, because like there's no free pass in the NHL, right? So like the NFL, you have a good enough regular season, you can skip the wild card game. Like, you don't think that's an advantage for Tom Brady to not play in the wild card game?
Oh, totally. That's what I was saying. You almost get these times sometimes where a team can get
Daniel
the double
Chara,
bye
40,
kind of.
43 years old.
Yeah, he's
gotta-
going
he's
at it
gotta
every
win
other night.
16 games.
Yep. No, definitely hear that. I feel like that's a good debate, and we appreciate you bringing that up to us tonight. Chris, checking in from Austin. Hopefully that didn't cost you too much.
Keep Austin
Oh
weird.
wait, everything's unlimited. We're in 2019.
Yeah, it's 2019,
Google
dude.
Voice.
Like, cell phone service isn't a real thing anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like not a whole lot is real down there. What are you doing for the rest of the night, Nanners?
We're actually at a bar called Nickel City. Every beer is not a nickel, which is surprising to me.
Oh,
It's the #1 dive bar in Austin.
Is that oh nice? Is that on 6th Street, right? Is it or is it 7th
No,
Street?
so that's the thing. We're in East Austin on around 11th
okay.
Street.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't even
yeah.
have my compass with me.
Yeah.
Way off.
I've been in Austin a couple times,
Yeah.
so I know a little
Well,
bit.
it's
of what he's
cheap
talking
living
about.
down there, right? You can at least confirm that, right?
Is what?
It's cheap down there, isn't it? Cheap living.
Yeah. Yeah, compared to Boston.
And it
but
has the heat. Is it like
not compared to where I live, Billy?
Well, I feel like everybody's always like, it's hot, but it's not that bad. Is it bad?
Bro, it's 92 degrees and I'm dripping in sweat right now.
Oh.
You know I
Like,
sweat
it's-
sitting,
it's-
so it doesn't sound like the best match
It's 10
for me.
minutes to 9. It's
I
10
know.
minutes to 9, and I'm sure you can appreciate how much I'm sweating right now.
Oh, I absolutely can. Well, for you and me, towel off, and
Listen.
appreciate you calling in tonight, Nanners.
All right, man.
All
I'll
right.
talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
See ya.
So yeah, some pretty good stuff there from my buddy Chris calling up there, out in Austin tonight. Good for him.
I love those questions. You know, like kind of.
Oh yeah, you
like,
could just go forever.
Right.
Well, the
like,
thing that happens is that you get in a room probably with 4 guys, each guy who champions a different sport, and go after it like that.
totally.
mean,
But you know,
You could sit here and make an argument that for each sport that it's the toughest. You know, if you wanted, there's enough facts on both sides, I'd
yeah,
say.
Yeah.
But I would say that, you know, from an objective standpoint, I do think that the NHL, the way that they do it, I think that's the toughest. It seems to not
But-
matter whether you're the 1 or the 8 seed a lot of
Yeah.
times necessarily, at least what I've seen with the Bruins over the years. So
Yep.
for that to not even really matter, kind of what Chris was saying, a lot of these teams, you almost get a better pass, you know, kind of like a free pass based on that regular season performance, where in the NHL, you got to prove it and prove it and
Yeah,
prove it and prove
yeah.
it.
I would keeping it to, you know, the sort of the team sports comparison, I would say that the sport where the playoffs are its own thing, second to the NHL, is actually the NFL. I think you're more apt to see a number 6 seed, which we've unfortunately experienced as
Multiple times.
as New England partisans as we are.
The Ravens and the Giants.
Yep. You know, those six seeds, especially like a defense gets hot and comes in, and they got a front 7 that can get after the quarterback. You know, all bets are off all of a sudden.
100%. 100%. Definitely agree with that. You know, as we're kind of rounding up some of the thoughts from the week, I think we do want to give an update on the David Ortiz latest. So,
Yes.
you know, the good news is, by all accounts, David Ortiz is you know, in good shape and is still resting. He still is in the hospital, but that's probably basically so he doesn't have to talk to his wife yet. But
Good one.
But Ortiz, so apparently that we're up to double digits on the arrest count. Apparently the bounty was 7,800. So if you're doing math, you know, could be doing life in jail for $780. And apparently they've actually identified the guy who put out the hit on Ortiz And actually, the thing that's the juiciest so far, I think, is that they have confirmed that Ortiz was with the woman in question the day before. There's actually pictures of him with her buying an $84,000 car.
Oh.
Now, the tough thing is I didn't know there were $84,000 cars in the Dominican. So, no.
Well,
but-
hey,
no,
yeah.
I'm joking. But, so he did buy this woman an $84,000 car. The next day, this woman has apparently said that they are friends, but, haven't made too many purchases like that from my friends. Obviously, I don't have the cash roll that Big Poppy does, but seems like Ortiz was messing around with perhaps the wrong woman and perhaps for a little bit too long.
So right, and I've heard these rumors, which seem not to be rumors anymore, are very much getting into the realm of confirmed fact. I'm just kind of fascinated by the clout of a sort of living legend sports athlete going up against a head of a drug cartel, and it's like, I guess to all you living legend sports athletes out there, we know you all mess around. We know that is what you guys do, and I guess there's just some dudes, ladies that don't mess around with them.
Yeah, and
They- 'cause
actually
they don't give a fuck.
by all reports actually said that there may have potentially been another attempt on Ortiz
I
a few
saw that
months
too,
ago,
yeah.
and it seems like Ortiz continued to keep company with the woman. So, again, we'll see as all these details kind of roll out, but it does seem like they have actually confirmed who put the hit out. They've got 10 arrests so far, and my God, for those guys who got arrested yelling through the prison bars saying that they weren't trying to hit David Ortiz, I don't know how believable that defense is going to be.
Nope.
But we'll see. Now, another guy that's kind of behind bars, what a good segue that was. Nick Caserio seems like he's locked up in Foxborough.
That was a juicy segue.
Now,
Nice.
how about Nick Caserio actually
Oh.
last year had requested permission to talk to the Texans,
Yeah.
was denied. Asked for permission to talk to him this year, gets denied. And then they're over at the ring ceremony or whatever, and somebody, I think from the Texans or whatnot, had gotten in touch with him. And so
while he was at the ring ceremony, that would be amazing. But
maybe I don't have 100% details on that. Maybe I'll cut that one out because I only want the ones that I 100% know. But
I mean,
he's been
certainly
targeted by the
right,
Texans
yep.
the past 2
Yep.
years. Pats, we're going to put out a grievance on it, then go ahead and say because they're basically enforcing Caserio to stay, that they're taking back the tampering charges. But it seems like and then all the reports coming out of Foxborough, it seems like Nick Caserio does want to, in fact, move on to the Texans. Now, we don't know that as fact, but the Texans also, they're keeping the spot open for him.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah. No.
now this guy is literally kind of being held hostage in Foxborough. It's kind of, now imagine this experience for Nick Caserio, what kind of torture chamber he's going to be in for the next year or so of his career. Hey, Nick, we got a player that we're scouting on the South Pole. You think you can head down and take a look, or
I would look at it kind of in the opposite direction.
where he could F up?
exactly
he can sabotage or-
I mean, maybe not totally sabotage, but Nick, we're counting on you. Belichick has none of his coaches on the defensive staff, and he's going to have to take over coaching all of the defense, and he's going to need some help with some player recruitment, and scouting and some GM duties, and Caserio is just kind of checked out on it.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and I wonder. I mean, they won't even so they'll take a guy like Greg Schiano and won't even call him the defensive coordinator. I'm wondering how much basically how much rope they're going to give this guy Caserio now that they know that he's kind of out the door. Is there going to be somebody else kind of saying, hey, we can't give this guy a whole lot of leash because we know he's headed over to the Texans? I don't know what that situation.
It's a tricky spot because I think they would ideally give him plenty of leash, given their lack of personnel in some of those coaching roles. But I don't think Caserio is going to take it.
Yeah. Now, one other thing from NFL news that is just, it's OJ joining Twitter was saying, I got a little getting even to do.
Got me to join Twitter.
What in God's this guy can't get enough of the celebrity of that murder. My God, I got a little getting even to do. And this guy has released books. I didn't kill her, but if I did, this is how I mean, how many times does this guy need to slap us in the face with, like, hey, I did it and got off? Enough about that. It's just like, even with his Twitter greeting, it's got to be creepy and kind of reminiscent of those times. Now, the Yankees a little bit, too, just to hit on the baseball side of things, they're only adding power as they put on Edwin Encarnacion into that lineup. Giancarlo Stanton coming back healthy. Here's a statistic for those of you at home. Giancarlo Stanton and Mike Trout both have 8 20-home run seasons before their age 30 season. Oof. Now think about that. You've got to come in at 22 and hit 20 home runs every single year in order to do that, or younger, which is obviously what those guys did. So just an insane stat. It's coming out of the power that the New York Yankees are adding to the lineup. I think Encarnacion was 0 for 4 last night, but I believe he's got 21 home runs so far this year. And, I mean, he should be able to absolutely mash in that lineup. So,
oh, man. Yeah, no, it's
could be more problems here for the Sox
that
that are on a hot streak here. Like I said, they were 500, around that. They've got on a little bit of a winning streak, so we'll see if they continue to keep that going. Now,
nice little start from Porcello last night.
Yep, we'll certainly take that. Now, what do we got for? We're tied up in a 1-1 affair here. Now, last thing, I guess I'll leave us on too, or guess a thought as well. So, 2 of the top 5 potential picks in next year's NBA draft going to the NBL, as we see LaMelo Ball actually going to the NBL and joining an Australian team only about a few weeks later after RJ Hampton actually committed to New Zealand. So you have 2 potential top 5 picks going to the NBL. We wondered about the success of that league, if players would be interested in it, and if it would change the college landscape. We're definitely missing out on 2 big players for the college game in LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton, who are going to play a year with professional teams, probably get some professional conditioning in, play with some bigger bodies, and we'll see how it translates at the next level. But like I said, you've got 2 really top 5 potential picks going to the NBL, playing overseas in Australia and New Zealand. So we'll see kind of how that moves as a trend. 2 guys, rather than taking that 1 year of college where they don't get the degree, do they decide to take that $100,000 or so contract, go overseas, and use that as a chip in the NBA? So LaMelo Ball announcing that he's going to the NBL, and then probably the most funny announcement that LeVar Ball made was that with the trade of Lonzo, he said that the Los Angeles Lakers will never, ever win a championship. Ever? We'll leave you on that. I'm Billy Allen. For Brian Murphy, this is Open Season. We're checking out. You can catch us weekly, Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Take care, and we'll see you then.